The sky over Neodaka was filled with silver drones and flying pods as the megacity buzzed with life. Skyscrapers touched the clouds, glowing with energy lines and digital ads. In the heart of the city stood a tall building shaped like a crystal tower. This was the headquarters of Solentech, the most powerful robotics company on Earth. Inside the building, a man stood alone in a glass-walled lab. His name was Riven, the CEO of Solentech. Tall, with tired eyes and a serious face, Riven had not slept properly in days. He wore a clean gray suit, but the dark circles under his eyes showed the weight he carried. Riven was not just a CEO, he was also a single father. His wife had passed away 3 years ago in a shuttle crash. Since then, he raised his 6-year-old son, Tariq, alone. Riven loved his son deeply, but running a mega company and being a good father at the same time was never easy. Today, however, Riven had no time for personal matters. A disaster was unfolding in his lab. "Crash again," said one of the engineers, shaking his head as the main screen showed red alerts. 15th time. Another muttered dot in the center of the lab was a high-tech helmet, connected to wires and monitors. It was the prototype for Orion, a mind-link interface that would allow people to control machines just by thinking. Orion had the power to change everything: health, education, even space travel. But there was one problem: it didn't work. Every time someone tested it, the system crashed within seconds. 15 of the best engineers had tried to fix it. 15 had failed. Now, with only 1 week left before the big investor demo, Riven's dream was falling apart. Riven stood over the control desk, watching the failure logs. Maybe the code is fine, but the brainwave filters are wrong. One engineer offered. "We've tested every filter model," said another. "It keeps looping back. It's like the system doesn't know what to ignore." Riven didn't answer. His mind was spinning. He knew this project had to succeed. Investors were losing patience. Competitors were catching up. His company's future, his son's future, both were in danger. Then, his personal AI assistant pinged him. Ping. Reminder: Tariq's nanny has arrived. Riven blinked. Right. He had almost forgotten. In the lobby downstairs, Mina stood quietly holding a soft toy in one hand and a lunchbox in the other. She was a simple woman in her early 30s, with calm eyes and a gentle smile. She wore a plain outfit and walked with a humble posture. She had come from a small town on the edge of the eastern districts. No fancy degrees, no digital badges, just a warm recommendation from a family Riven once helped. Riven walked over and greeted her politely. "You're Mina?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, sir. I understand my job is to look after young Tariq." "Correct," Riven said. "He's upstairs in the lounge room. I'll take you." As they went up in the elevator, Mina looked around the building with quiet curiosity. "This place is very alive," she said softly. Riven gave a short smile. "It used to feel that way. Now it just feels heavy." Tariq's eyes lit up when he saw Mina. "Are you my new nanny?" he asked. Mina knelt down and smiled. "Yes, little one. I brought your toy bird back to life." She handed him the soft toy with a blinking eye she had fixed on the way in. Tariq giggled and hugged her. Riven watched the moment silently. He felt a mix of relief and guilt. He had been so focused on work that he forgot how much his son needed gentle company. "I'll be in the lab," he said to Mina. "You'll be fine here?" "Yes, sir." Hours passed. The lab kept failing. Engineers argued. Some gave up and left the room. Riven stayed, refusing to quit. Meena, meanwhile, played quietly with Tariq near the glass wall of the lab. The boy asked her questions, pointed at the machines, and told stories. Mina listened patiently, but her eyes often drifted to the bug screens inside. She didn't say a word. But in her mind, she was noticing something. A loop. A broken chain. Something the others had missed. Later that evening, Riven sat alone on a bench near the edge of the lab, drinking cold tea. The engineers were gone. The lights were dim. Mina approached silently. "Sir?" she said softly. Riven looked up, surprised. "Yes?" "I saw the code you were testing. May I ask something?" He blinked. "You read it?" "Just a little." It looked like the brain signal parser was copying input instead of filtering it. "That might cause a recursive loop." Riven stared at her. "What did you just say?" Mina stepped back, nervous. "I didn't mean to overstep. I only noticed because I once worked on something similar. A small project, long ago." Riven stood up, now fully alert. "What project?" "A neural pattern mapper. It was never published properly." He looked at her seriously. "Would you be willing to look at the code again?" Mina stepped into the lab, unsure but calm. She sat at the console and asked for the test input. Riven nodded, and she began typing. Her fingers were slow but precise. She adjusted 3 lines of code and entered a short override. Then she pressed run. The system blinked once, then twice, then ... stabilized. For the first time in weeks, the Orion prototype ran without crashing. 30 seconds. No loop. No error. Riven and the lab tech stared in shock. "She did it," someone whispered. Riven turned to look at Mina. She stood still, eyes on the screen, as if unsure what she had done was real. He said nothing, but in that moment, he knew. The project had just been saved by a woman who had only been hired to take care of his son. What would he do next? That answer would soon shake the entire world. For a few moments, no one said a word. The screen in front of them still showed green lights. The Orion system was not only stable, it was running smoother than ever. The test signal was clean. No crashes, no memory leaks, no recursive loops. Mina, the nanny, had done in 30 seconds what 15 trained engineers couldn't do in 3 weeks. Riven stood still, his hands in his pockets, watching her face. Mina looked calm, almost shy, as if she didn't realize the value of what she had. "Just done. Double quotes. How did you know?" one of the engineers asked, stepping forward. Mina looked down. "It was just a guess. The input stream seemed like it was copying itself. I thought maybe a filter was missing." Riven stepped closer. "You recognize that by just watching from the outside?" "I saw the debug logs earlier. I was passing by." Riven exchanged glances with his team. This was not just a lucky guess. She understood what she was doing. That night, after the lab closed and the lights dimmed, Riven sat alone in his office, staring at a blank wall. His mind was racing. MEENA. Who was she really? He pulled up her employment record. It was basic. Number. Higher degree listed. Just one small college in a rural area, and that too had closed down 5 years ago. No big job experience. Just caretaking work for families, and a rejected application for Solon Tech's janitorial team 2 years ago. Still, she had just solved the biggest bug in his company's history. He tapped his desk. "Am I looking at a mistake in the system? Or a missing genius?" He muttered. Then he remembered something Mina had said. "I once worked on something similar. A neural pattern mapper." He opened an old research database and searched the keywords. Hundreds of results came up. He filtered them by region. A few unpublished papers appeared credited to another name. A Professor Junaid from the same college Mina had attended. Riven frowned. He opened the first paper. In the notes section, written in small, faint text, he saw, "Special thanks to MA for code insights." He leaned back, heart beating faster. M.A. Mina F. S.M. Anna. The next day, Riven entered the lounge where Tariq was, playing with his toy drone. Mina sat nearby, repairing the tiny wings with a small toolkit. "Good morning, Mina," he said gently. She looked up, smiling. "Good morning, sir. May I speak with you for a moment?" "In private." Mina nodded and followed him to a quiet hallway. Near the rooftop garden, Riven stopped and turned to her. "I looked into your past work," he said. Her expression changed. She looked uncomfortable, as if caught doing something wrong. "I'm not angry," Riven said quickly. "I am amazed. You were helping with academic work, but your name was hidden." Mina lowered her eyes. "I didn't have a degree. My professor said people wouldn't take it seriously if it came from me." Riven's jaw tightened. "So he used your ideas and put his name on them?" "He said it was better than nothing." Riven stared at her in silence. Then he spoke softly. "You don't belong in the background. Mina, what you did yesterday, do you understand how important that was?" "I didn't mean to interrupt your work," she said. "I just saw something I understood." Later that day, Riven invited Mina into the lab during a low-activity hour. "I want you to see the logs," he said. "Your fix didn't just stop the crash, it actually improved response speed by 27%. She looked at the data with interest, her eyes moving quickly across the screen. "This function is still too heavy," she said suddenly. "If you use a shallow memory echo here, you can save even more processing time." Riven stepped back and let her try. She typed slowly, carefully. When she ran the program again, the results improved. The engineers watching from nearby didn't know whether to be shocked or impressed. "Sir," one of them whispered to Riven, "you're telling. Our nanny just debugged and optimized our core interface twice in 2 days?" Riven smiled faintly. "Yes, that's exactly what happened." In the days that followed, Mina continued caring for Tariq during the day. But during breaks, while the boy napped or played, she sat in the lab quietly, watching the teamwork, sometimes offering small suggestions when asked. Her ideas were always simple but powerful. She didn't try to sound smart. She just explained things in ways that made sense. "Imagine the signal is like a river," she said once. "If too much flows at once, it overflows. Add a gate and let it pass slowly." Her analogies helped. The engineers see the problem differently. For the first time in weeks, the lab was filled with energy and hope. One evening, as Riven and Mina walked through the garden while Tariq chased glowing butterflies, he said, "You know, my wife used to dream of something like Orion. She was a scientist too." Mina asked. "She was a doctor. She wanted brain-linked systems to help disabled patients. That's why I started this project, to honor her dream." Mina was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. She would be proud. Riven stopped walking, looked at her seriously. "Mina," he said, "have you ever thought of working in tech again?" She looked surprised. "I don't think people would accept someone like me." "You mean someone without a shiny resume? Let them laugh. But I've seen what you can do." He took a deep breath. "I'd like you to assist with the next Orion test, officially, as part of the team." Mina hesitated. "What about Tariq? He trusts you more than anyone." "You'll still be close to him. But I want you to help more than just him, Mina." Her eyes filled slightly with emotion. "I never thought someone would ask me that," Riven smiled. "Well, I'm asking now." As the sun set over the city, the lights of Solentech lit up one by one. Inside, a nanny who once worked in silence now stood at the edge of greatness. And a CEO, once buried in problems, had finally found a solution he never expected. Together, they were about to change everything. The next morning, the main lab of Solentech was quiet, but the air was filled with tension. A new test was about to begin, this one different from all the others. For the first time, Mina was officially part of the team. She stood in the corner, not wearing a lab coat, not carrying a laptop, just quietly watching. Her presence still felt strange to some of the engineers. A few whispered, others stayed silent. But none could deny the truth. She had fixed the system when they couldn't. Riven stood at the front of the room, speaking calmly. "Today we're going to run the Orion system again. Only this time, we're using Mina's memory filter and pulse timing script. If it works, we'll finally move to live testing. He looked around the room. Some nodded. Some looked unsure. But everyone understood how important this was. Riven glanced toward Mina. Would you like to start the program? Mina stepped forward, her fingers hovering above the controls. She wasn't nervous. She was focused. Begin test mode. She said. The screen lit up. The helmet connected to the neural interface began sending signals. The data stream flowed across the screen like a calm river. For 5 seconds. Then 10. Then 20. Everyone leaned in. At 30 seconds. The system showed a new message. Stable connection established. Gasps filled the room. For the first time in months, the Orion interface didn't crash. It didn't freeze. It simply worked. Riven's heart pounded in his chest. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from hope. One of the engineers laughed in disbelief. Is this real? Another replied, it's real. She did it again. Riven turned to Mina. Do you understand what this means? Mina looked at the screen, her expression calm. It means the system finally understands how to listen. He smiled. Yes, and it also means you just saved this project. Suddenly, applause broke out. Not forced, not polite, genuine respect. Sane people who had doubted her now clapped for her. A few even came over to shake her hand. Mina smiled shyly but didn't say much. She had never worked for praise. She had only done what she believed was right. Later that evening, Mina sat with Tariq in the break room. He was drawing on a tablet, creating shapes and robots. I want to make a flying machine one day, he said proudly. You already have the mind for it, Mina replied with a warm smile. Tariq looked up. Baba says you fixed the big helmet. Machine, are you a scientist now? Mina laughed softly. I'm just someone who likes to solve puzzles. Tariq thought for a moment. Can I be like you when I grow up? Mina paused, her eyes softened. You can be better. Meanwhile, in his office, Riven called an emergency board meeting. His top executives and investors joined the hologram call. Faces from across the world appeared on screen. I have important news, he said. Orion is stable, fully functional. A few executives raised eyebrows. That's impossible. You said it would take weeks. We fixed the loop problem, Riven said simply. How? Asked one of the board members. Riven looked them all in the eye, with the help of someone no one expected. He didn't say Mina's name, not yet. He wanted to protect her from sudden attention. But he told them the truth, that someone outside the engineering team had seen what they could not, and solved the issue with fresh eyes. Some were impressed. Some were doubtful. One investor asked, Are you saying we've been wasting time with trained experts? No, Riven replied calmly. I'm saying sometimes brilliance comes from where you least expect it. That's why we need to pay attention to everyone. The next day, news of Orion's success began to spread inside Solemtech. Engineers from other departments came to the lab to see the test results. People started asking questions about who fixed the system. How did it happen? Some thought it was a secret AI update. Others believed a top-level hacker was involved. But a few knew the truth and word began to spread. It was the CEO's nanny. Someone whispered, No way, it's true. She just walked in and solved it. In the company chat groups and private conversations, her name became known not as a rumor, but as a quiet legend. Riven knew he had to make a decision. Mina had become more than just help for his son. She had become key to the future of Solemtech. That night, he invited her to the rooftop garden. The stars above Neodaka shined like diamonds. The air was fresh, cooled by wind towers and lights. From the city below danced in the distance. Mina sat quietly beside Riven as Tariq played with his drone. I want to offer you something, Riven said softly. Mina looked at him with calm eyes. You've already given me more than I expected. No, Riven said. You gave me back my company, my purpose. You gave my son a reason to smile again. Now let me give you a role that fits your true talent." He opened a tablet and showed her a contract. "It's temporary at first. Research. Consultant. Full access. You choose your hours." Mina didn't speak for a few seconds. Then she said, "Are you sure the others will accept someone like me?" Riven smiled. "They already do." Later, when Mina returned to her room that night, she sat alone on the edge of the bed, holding the contract in her hands. She had once dreamed of this, working in a lab, solving real problems, using her mind freely. She had lost that chance years ago. But somehow, life had brought her here again, not through power, not through position, but through a quiet act of observation. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and whispered to herself, "This time, I won't step back." And far below, in the center of Solentech's glowing tower, the Orion system continued to run silently, stronger than ever. The morning sun rose over Neo-Dhaka, casting golden light on Solentech's crystal tower. The city was waking up, full of flying drones, sky buses, and people going about their day. But inside Solentech, something unusual was happening. People. In every department were talking not about the latest tech, not about numbers or stock prices, but about Mina. The nanny? Seriously? She fixed the Orion crash in just 30 seconds. She's been helping in the lab now. Some say she's even guiding the engineers. No one could ignore her anymore. In the top floor conference room, the senior board members gathered for a private meeting. The news had reached them too. "She has no degree," said one director. "No experience in any tech company. She was hired as a nanny," another frowned. "Yes, but her name is in the system logs. The fixes are real." A third leaned forward. "If we let just anyone into the engineering team, we risk our image. Investors might panic." Then someone said, "We need to know who she really is." They agreed. A quiet investigation was ordered, not to harm Mina, but to understand her better. At the same time, in the lab, Mina was sitting beside a young engineer named Haroon. He was trying to optimize the neural lag delay in the Orion interface. But something kept slowing it down. "You're thinking too fast," Mina said gently. "Try not to solve the whole thing at once. Focus on the last loop only." Haroon followed her advice, and, within minutes, the delay dropped by half. He looked at her with respect. "You see things so clearly." "I see them slowly," she smiled. "That helps me understand better." More engineers began approaching her, not with pride or doubt, but with real curiosity. Mina never pushed herself forward, but her calm, honest help was changing everything. Riven stood near the lab window, watching it all. His mind was filled with emotions, relief, pride, and something deeper. He thought about his late wife. She had always believed that hidden talent was everywhere, especially in people no one listened to. "You were right," he whispered to himself. "Sometimes the best minds are quiet ones." Later, he invited Mina to his office. "You're changing this company," he said. "And not just with your code." Mina raised her eyebrows. "I'm just helping where I can. You're doing more than that. The way you guide others, how you explain things. It's leadership." Mina shook her head softly. "I'm not a leader. You are. You lead without shouting, without needing credit." That evening, a file was sent to Riven's private terminal. It was the result of the board's quiet investigation. It contained Mina's full background. She had grown up in a farming village. Her school had no proper lab. Yet she had scored the highest in her region on every science test. She had joined a small university with a scholarship and started working on neural patterns. But her papers were never published under her name. The reason? Her professor took her ideas and presented them as his own. Riven's eyes darkened as he read the report. There were even old complaint letters ignored and forgotten. After graduation, she applied to many companies. None hired her. One even suggested she try housekeeping instead. So she did. She survived quietly, working as a caretaker. No one ever asked about her past. No one cared to know what she once dreamed of. Until now. The next day, during a team meeting, Riven spoke. In front of everyone. "There's something I want all of you to hear," he said. "It's about Mina." She looked up, confused. She didn't come from a top school. She doesn't have fancy certificates. But she fixed Orion when no one else could, not once, 3 times. She's improved our system by over 40%. And she's teaching others how to think in new ways. Some nodded. Others looked surprised. A few clapped. But there's more, Riven continued. She once worked on neural mapping years ago, but her work was stolen. She was pushed aside. That ends. Now. He turned to Mina. From today, you're not just helping us, you're officially a lead research consultant. The room filled with applause. Mina stood slowly. She looked overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Riven smiled. She nodded, holding back tears. Yes. As days passed, Mina's name appeared on official files. Her ideas were added to system designs. She had her own desk now, not near the window, not in the corner, but in the center of the lab, right next to Riven's team. Reporters began calling. Magazines wanted interviews. Riven refused them all for now. He wanted to protect Mina's peace. He knew she wasn't ready for the world spotlight, but the board was restless. She's a good worker, but we can't let a former nanny lead such a big project, one director complained. Riven replied simply, she already is. One afternoon, during the quiet moment, Mina asked Riven, "Why are you trusting me so much?" He looked at her thoughtfully. "Because you remind me of someone. Your wife?" Yes, she believed in people, especially those the world ignored. Mina was silent for a while. Then she said, "Thank you. Not just for giving me a job, but for seeing me." Riven smiled. "You saw us first." That night, in her room, Mina took out a small, old notebook. It was full of her original ideas, sketches, formulas, broken dreams. She turned the page and began writing again. For the first time in years, the title at the top read, "New Pathways for Human-Machine Connection." She didn't write it for credit. She wrote it for every mind like hers, unseen, unheard, but full of light. 2 weeks passed. Inside Solon Tech's labs, a quiet transformation was taking place. Mina, once only known as a nanny, now sat beside the core engineers of the Orion project. Her name was listed in the internal design documents. Her ideas were shaping the future of human-machine interaction. Yet, Mina remained the same, simple, humble, and focused. She still checked on Tariq during breaks, fixed his toy drones when they broke, and made him warm milk in the evening. But in between, she led brainstorming sessions, solved signal conflicts, and introduced a new method for energy-efficient brainwave processing. Her idea was simple. Let the machine breathe like a human. Process, pause, reflect, respond. It worked. Orion became faster, smoother, and safer. Inside the boardroom, however, not everyone was happy. She's not a trained engineer. One director said, "She's doing the work better than trained engineers," replied Riven. Firm and calm, but the investors expect someone with credentials. "I care about results, not paper degrees. She's delivered more than anyone else on this project." Another board member added, "Fine, but we can't let her speak at the Tech Forum Summit. She's not polished." Riven's eyes narrowed. "She deserves to be there more than any of us." The Tech Forum Summit was the biggest global event in technology. It happened once a year, and this time, it was being held in the floating city of Vastra 1. Above the Arabian Sea, Riven had been invited to present Orion to the world, its design, impact, and future use. A week before the summit, he sat with Mina on the rooftop garden. "I want you to present Orion with me," he said. Mina's eyes widened. Me? No, I can't speak in front of all those people. You already speak better than most. You explain things clearly, from the heart. I've never been on a stage. I'll stand beside you. Mina looked at the sky, full of glowing airships. She was quiet for a long time, then she nodded. If this helps others like me, I will try. The night before the summit, Mana stayed up late preparing. She practiced in front of a mirror. Her voice shook at first, but slowly grew steady. In her small notebook she wrote, "This is not about me. This is about every unheard voice, every closed door, every ignored idea. I will open a window." The summit hall in Vastrawan was bright and massive, filled with leaders, scientists, and journalists from across the world. Screens floated in the air. Cameras hovered silently. Riven took the stage first. He introduced Orion, its purpose, and its potential. Then he said, "This project was broken, lost, until someone outside our system showed us how to fix it. That someone is here today, and I'd like her to speak." Gasps filled the room. Mina stepped forward slowly. She wore a simple suit, her hair tied back. Her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were calm. "Good afternoon," she said. "My name is Mina. I used to be a nanny. I still am." People chuckled gently. She smiled. "But today, I'm here to share what I learned, not from books, but from watching, listening, thinking quietly." She talked about how she saw the Orion crash logs, how the brainwave loop reminded her of a water wheel in her village, how a simple adjustment in rhythm changed everything. She explained her ideas with words anyone could understand. No fancy terms, no overcomplicated graphs. Only truth, spoken with clarity and heart. At first, the crowd was silent. Then someone began to clap. Then another. Soon, the entire hall stood up in applause. Mina bowed her head slightly. She had not asked for this, but she had earned it. Riven stood beside her, proud. Tariq, watching from backstage, clapped with both hands, shouting, "That's my nanny!" After the presentation, global news channels picked up the story. Unknown woman fixes billion-dollar project. From nanny to innovator, the Mina story. Solon Tech's hidden star shines bright. Requests for interviews poured in. Universities offered her honorary degrees. Tech foundations wanted to fund her future research, but Mina turned most of it down. "I didn't come here to become famous," she told Riven. "I came here to do good work." Back at Solon Tech, Mina's role changed again. She was now co-architect of Orion, not a temporary consultant, not a background helper. She was leading the future of the project. She redesigned the system's interface to be usable even by disabled people. She created tools for remote access in poor regions. She added a safety layer for mental health protection. She made Orion not just powerful but kind. Tariq once asked her, "Are you a boss now?" Mina smiled. "No, I'm a builder. What do you build?" She looked out the window. Bridges. One afternoon, while reviewing test results, Mina paused. She turned to Riven and said, "Do you ever think about what comes next? For the project? For people like me, like your son. People who think differently. People who are left behind." Riven leaned back in his chair. "All the time." She placed a file on his desk. A simple title was written on the cover. "Hidden Sparks, a program to find quiet geniuses." Riven opened it. Inside were ideas for training programs, workshops, and entry paths for people with no access to formal education, but strong minds. "This is beautiful," he said. "Let's build it." Together, they began something new, not just a machine, not just a company, but a movement. Because Mina had proven that brilliance can come from anywhere, even from someone who once quietly made tea, wiped toys, and watched from the shadows. And as the lights of Solon Tech glowed through the night, a new chapter was starting for the world, and for those who dared to dream softly, but deeply. A soft rain fell over Neo Dhaka as flying drones moved through the cloudy sky. The city below glowed with blue and gold lights. Inside the glass tower of Solemtech, the Orion Project Lab was calm, but everyone inside was wide awake. The latest version of Orion had passed all tests. It was faster, safer, and smarter than anything the world had seen before. The final review had ended, and the system was ready for production. Mina, now officially co-architect of the project, stood near the main console, checking the last test logs. Her simple clothes and calm smile made her look no different than she had months ago. But everyone knew she was the reason this project had survived. Riven, standing beside her, watched the screen silently. His company was now stronger than ever, but this time, it was built not just on machines, but on human trust. "Everything's ready," Mina said. Riven nodded. "Then it's time." In the following days, news about the upcoming launch spread across every corner of the planet. Reporters, scientists, and leaders began preparing for the public release of Orion. Solemtech announced a global broadcast. For the first time, people around the world would see Orion in action and meet the people behind it. The board of directors, however, were still nervous. "Let Riven present it alone," one director said. "He knows how to speak to the media." "What envy! If people don't accept Mina, she's not a trained speaker." But Riven stood firm. "If Mina doesn't stand on that stage, I won't either." Silence fell over the boardroom. One director finally said, "Fine, but you're taking a big risk." Riven replied calmly, "No, I'm finally doing what's right." The day of the global broadcast arrived. Solemtech's main hall was transformed into a stage. Hundreds of guests sat in the audience, and millions more were watching from their homes, schools, and public centers across the world. Tariq sat in the front row, holding his favorite robot. He looked excited, proud, and a little sleepy. Riven walked onto the stage first. "Good evening, everyone," he said. "Today, we are proud to introduce something that will change the way humans connect with machines and with each other." He spoke about Orion's features, its purpose, and its power to help people, especially those with physical disabilities. Then he paused. "There is one more thing I must share. This project was nearly canceled. It was broken, lost. 15 engineers couldn't fix it. But someone from outside the lab, someone without a title or degree, saw the solution." He turned toward the side of the stage. "Please welcome the person who saved Orion, Mina Afsana." The lights followed Mina as she walked slowly to the center. The audience was quiet. Some people leaned forward, curious. Others were already nodding in respect. Mina took a deep breath and began to speak. "I was hired to take care of a young boy," she said softly. "I never thought I would be standing here, speaking about the most powerful human-machine system ever made." She smiled gently. "But maybe that's the point. Ideas don't come only from big offices or loud voices. Sometimes they come from silence, from watching, from thinking in the background." She explained her fix to the crash loop, not with big words, but with a story. "I used to watch a broken fan in the room where I worked. It would spin too fast, then stop. One day, I gave it space to slow down, and it worked. That's what Orion needed, space to breathe." The audience was still quiet, but now they were listening deeply. Mina continued, "This system was made by many hands, but I hope it will serve even more lives, those who are often forgotten, left out, or unheard." When she finished, the room stayed silent for a moment. Then came a wave of clapping, slow at first, then louder, stronger. People stood. Some wiped tears. Others looked inspired. It wasn't just a standing ovation, it was a recognition of something far greater: truth, humility, brilliance. Within hours, Mina's speech was shared across every major network and media platform. The voice of the future wears no lab coat. She saved the machine and reminded us what it means to be human. Mina's words reach every corner of Earth. Across different countries, students quoted her message. Sometimes ideas come from silence. She became a symbol not of power, but of potential. Back at Tech, the lab was full of joy. Staff members brought flowers and cards. Engineers from other departments came to shake Mina's hand. Harun, the young engineer who once doubted her, gave her a small gift, a tiny model of Orion with her name engraved at the base. "It belongs to you more than any of us," he said. She smiled and placed it near her notebook. In the evening, Riven found Mina sitting in the garden with Tariq. He sat beside them, watching the city lights below. "You did something big today," Riven said quietly. "I was scared," Mina admitted, "but it felt right." "It was perfect," he replied. "And now the world sees you the way I did." Tariq looked up. "Can I be like Mina when I grow up?" Riven smiled. "You can be anything, especially if you learn to listen like she does." That night, Mina received a message from a young girl in a small town. It said, "I always thought someone like me could never work in science, but after hearing you speak, I think I will try." Mina read it twice, tears in her eyes. She replied, "You don't need to be loud to change the world. Just don't stop thinking." As Orion prepared for global release, Mina's impact had already spread far beyond code or machines. She had done more than solve a system failure. She had opened a door for thousands of minds like hers, waiting quietly in the shadows. Months had passed since the global broadcast that changed everything. The Orion system was now being used in hospitals, schools, and homes around the world. It helped people communicate, learn, and live better lives. But the greatest change wasn't just in technology, it was in how the world saw potential. Mina had become a leader, not because of a title, but because of her heart and mind. One morning, entered the Tech headquarters with a new idea. She carried a simple folder, thick with papers and sketches. Riven greeted her with a smile. "Good morning, Mina. What do you have for me today?" She smiled back. "I want to start a program. A way to find and help people like me. Those who have talent but no chance." Riven's eyes brightened. "I like that. What do you call it?" "The Hidden Sparks Initiative. It will offer training, mentorship, and real opportunities to those ignored by traditional systems." He nodded slowly. "We can begin next month." Together, they worked on the plan. The company dedicated resources to find quiet thinkers in small towns, rural areas, and forgotten cities. They created mobile labs, learning centers, and online platforms. The first group of students arrived young men and women with no degrees, but big dreams. Some were farmers, others factory workers, but all eager to learn. Mina taught them herself, sharing her story and encouraging them to trust their minds. "Don't let anyone tell you who you are," she said. "Your ideas matter, your voice matters." At home, Tariq watched proudly as his nanny turned mentor changed lives. He had grown close to many students, helping them with simple tasks and sharing his toys. One day, a student named Lena came to Mina with a question. "I want to create technology to help my village," Lena said. "But I don't know where to start," Mina smiled. "Start with what you know. What problems do people face?" Lena thought for a moment. "Water shortages, poor electricity, little access to doctors." Mina nodded. "Good. Now think about how technology can help solve these." Lena's eyes lit up. Meanwhile, at Tech, the Orion system continued to improve. New versions added features that made it easier for people with disabilities to communicate. Teachers used it to help students learn languages. Doctors used it to understand patients better. The company's success attracted attention from governments and organizations worldwide. Riven and Mina often traveled to conferences, sharing their vision and inspiring others. One evening, Mina sat on the rooftop with Riven and Tariq. "The world is changing," she said softly. "But there is still so much to do," Riven nodded. Yes, but together, we have started something real. Something that can't be undone. Tariq looked up at the stars. Will I be part of it too? You already are, Mina smiled. By learning by dreaming. Then came a challenge. A new tech company announced a rival system, fast, flashy, but untested. They claimed their system was better and cheaper. The news worried many at Sullum Tech. Riven called a meeting. We must prove Orion's strength, not just in technology but in heart. Mina stood up. Our strength is our people, our users, our hidden sparks. She proposed a global competition inviting people from all over to develop new ideas. Using Orion, the competition was a success. Thousands participated. Some created new medical devices, others built education tools, and many designed apps to help the environment. Lena won an award for her village water project. Mina watched proudly as her students became inventors, leaders, and changemakers. Months later, Mina received a message from her old village. They invited her to speak at the local school. When she arrived, children crowded around her, curious and excited. She told them her story, not of fame or fortune, but of hope. Sometimes, the biggest ideas come from small places, she said. Don't stop believing in yourself. The children listened with wide eyes. Back in the city, Riven and Mina prepared for the next chapter. They planned new projects, new partnerships, and new ways to reach more people. One day, Riven turned to Mina and said, "You have changed. Everything, not just Orion, but how we see talent." Mina smiled. "I only helped open a door. Now it's time for others to walk through." The sun set over Neodaka as Mina, Riven, and Tariq stood on the rooftop, looking at the glowing city below. The future was bright, not because of machines or money, but because of hope.